It's interesting, when we first saw the business, I was an engineer, and we had prepared ourselves, Nancy in speech therapy and me in engineering, for careers that seemed glamorous from the outside. I was involved in the space program, and it just seemed like with the education we had life set up.
You can plan and educate yourself, and then you get in the middle of it and you go, oh, this is so not what I wanted, because it isn't just what you do every day, it's where you're headed and what it'll ultimately allow you to do. We started wanting to spend time together and have income, extra income, whatever, because Jim was in an uncertain field. We had no idea, as it turned out, how very crucial that it became.
Ironically, when I started as an engineer, I worked for a company called McDonnell Douglas, which then was bought and became Boeing, and basically is not in business anymore. And so the company that seemed like the big solid aerospace company is gone, and the little Amway business is now a nearly $10 billion enterprise. So good decision for us. I was not looking for any kind of a business, or never thought of myself as a salesperson of any kind, or a leader, certainly. The logic of the plan made a lot of sense to me. It turned out to be almost a genius idea in its simplicity. It gave people an opportunity to own a business with so few obstacles compared to other opportunities that might exist. And it appealed to people like us who had never really thought much about business, right. But it made sense. It was simple. I could understand how it worked and explain it to people simply. And once we got into the environment, we understood that this business was more than its products. We realized very, very early that the real product we had here was an opportunity. The real thing we were bringing to the marketplace was the ability to help people get unstuck financially and to have some control over their life. And so we went out kind of passionately, obviously with the product, but most importantly with the idea that people could own something, and that we could work together to achieve dreams through this simple idea. When one looks at an Amway business from the outside, it doesn't look like it offers anything close to what we discovered later. We found that this business was a vehicle to give us all the things that we had ever dreamed about in terms of freedom and ownership of our life, values, relationships, and yet at the beginning, who knew? I'd noticed a lot of the people that I shared the idea with told me immediately that it wouldn't work. In fact, the number one objection we heard some 40 years ago is that either it wouldn't work or it's too late. We always hear that. It's a convenient way for people to avoid, taking a chance on themselves. But I see the business as still just getting started. The opportunities in the world for these products and the opportunities to help people start a business of their own just keep getting better and better. We recognized recently that probably a third or more of our organization, literally thousands, tens of thousands of people that now are part of our team, weren't even born when we started our business. People are hungrier for what we have to offer, and it fits the times today as good or better than it fit the times when we started.
The first time I remember meeting Rich, I sat there. I'd never heard anything like that in my life. Jim and I had been steeped in academia and had recently just left Purdue. And we were kind of set up for where we thought we were going in life. And, you make decisions based on the options you see, or the experience you have, or what you think you might like. And those are really not the things necessarily to make those decisions on. And meeting Rich DeVos clarified that for me. I looked at that and I listened to what he said, and I thought I would follow that man anywhere. And I felt the same about Jay Van Andel. Being married to Jim, I felt like, well, I've met another person as smart as Jim. and we just felt like they were trustworthy, they were going where we wanted to go, and they believed and valued what we valued. And we wanted something, or I personally, as a woman, wanted something that would blend my social life, my occupational life, my business life as one, where it wasn't a problem to cross over. The same values persisted. And when I heard him, I thought, I don't know if I can do this, I only know I will.
The first time I heard Rich DeVos, I still can remember it as clear as it was yesterday. I'd never heard anyone speak like that. Neither one of us had. We didn't have parents or family history that ever espoused the kind of values or the kind of concepts that Rich would talk about. And Jay, in my estimation, really gave the business huge credibility as well. He seemed to be the smartest man on the planet, and it seemed like if Jay thought this was a good idea, it certainly must be. And when he would open his mouth, I would just relax and feel confident that I was in good hands. And when Rich would open his mouth, I would just feel I could do anything. And I feel that it was safe, that there was integrity, that there was respect for people and respect for values and principles. And we bought into the whole philosophy. Rich and Jay became like our dads. There's a culture in Amway of values. There's a culture of hope. There's a culture of integrity and a culture where the emphasis seems to be on helping people, and that financial rewards are secondary. First, you help people, and then if they succeed, you get successful. You can't be successful without helping someone else. We've always sensed it was a cause, the cause of free enterprise, the cause of opportunity, the cause of family, freedom, hope, and reward. And it's not just a slogan.
Overall, I think as women, there's such an opportunity to own something if you're single and building this business, and that's unique, and it's a safe environment. It's positive, it's trustworthy, and it's lasting. And so if you're looking for income and a bit of security in the sense of having things work together, I think it's fabulous. And if you're working with a partner, you have to decide what each of you are best at and do that. You know, I was very good at connecting with the people, and I loved that part of the business. And Jim was good at everything, basically. But I added in that I cared about the people, and that's important. I think that's one of the things that makes this business very different. It'll weed out the people that are not authentic.
You know, I've always found that the women were really a key. I mean, even in the very early days. Obviously, one of the big changes is women today most often have careers along with the husband. So time is much more limited than it used to be many years ago, when many women were home or raising the children, and they would take on a role because they had the time available, perhaps an administrative role, a lot of times with the product, because you know, so much of our product line in the early days was household products. And so the woman really had a major role to play. It was important to appeal to the woman because she would often set the temperature. And if the woman had a dream and was ambitious and determined, the man would usually come along. One of the things we've always appreciated the most is how this business integrates with the family. So our kids have been raised literally from the time they were babies in this business. All of our leaders that were around us seemed like their aunts and uncles and their family members, and there would be people in our home and tapes or CDs all the time, products everywhere, functions for them to go to. And so our whole environment has been around the business. And we watched as our children grew up how much impact that had on the way they thought, their attitude. You know, they absorbed a positive attitude about life, an understanding of taking responsibility and not being a victim, not blaming people, and you know, the values that they were around. And then as our children began to get older and in some cases test the real world and find out how unique this environment was, you know, I know in David's case, he came running back to the business, really beginning to understand how unique it was and how badly he wanted to do it, and wanted to do it himself so that it was his business and their business with his family. And as we watch them duplicate that now, and we watch them with their two little daughters and the life they've created for themselves in a very short period of time with this business, what hope they give the next generation to think that you can go in just 5 or 6 years from a standing start to Founder's Diamond, and a beautiful home and travel and family and freedom and values. And I think that's why they're able to grow fast, because they love their life, people can tell it, and people want what they have, and they don't know where else to get it.
I think for us building the business as a family, that was a desire of mine from the beginning, because I was looking for something for Jim and I to do where we spent time together. Jim was my best friend, and ultimately that's what I believe drew us to this business. And we have a little bit of a unique situation. You know, I have an expression, find your why before your why finds you. And by that, I just mean it's always important to be prepared. And we didn't know the best reason we would need this business. We were thrilled to make income that, you know, provided us a lifestyle. But when we had our second child, he was in the hospital for almost 9 months and had 30-plus brain surgeries over the first 15 years. And that made my situation very unique. And so I was able to spend the amount of time that I needed to, and Jim was as well, which was unique in the hospital. And we were there together, and we rotated. But this business allowed us, we didn't make a huge amount of money at that time, but it allowed us enough time to be able to be together with him. And I don't know if I can put a price on that. Now, that also served to be the very best reason to build a huge business, because that wasn't necessarily our goal in the beginning. We didn't need a huge amount of money. We wanted to spend time together and spend time with our family, and but things turned out differently, and so we made a decision that we would build it huge. And so we didn't have insurance for Eric after a very short time in the beginning, and so we had a lot of medical bills, and that can provide you a reason, or it can destroy you. And we just looked at each other and said, he's the very best reason I can think of to get better. And I said, you know, we're going to get good at something over the next 20 years. Let's get great at this, because this will provide us what we need for our family. And today, Eric lives a wonderful life.
Who knew that we would still have the same tightness with our children and now our grandchildren as we had when our children were little? It just keeps carrying on as the generation moves along. The business just beautifully integrates the whole package. And now the grandkids are, you know, using the products and coming to the meetings and grabbing the microphone and picking up the culture and picking up the fun and the magic of this very, very unique environment. I think everybody has dreams, but as we grow a little bit older, reality hits us so often. It's the great tragedy. And those things we dreamt about when we were younger, about the kind of life we would live, or the significance we would of our contribution, or the home we would live in, or the places we would go, it meets reality. And you know, next thing you know, you've got to mow the lawn and do the laundry and, you know, go to work, and life just kind of starts to take over. And I think people stop dreaming. And I'm fortunate that I was married to someone who is eternally optimistic and expectant, and is always looking for solutions. I thought negative was a sign of intelligence. Mm-hmm. I thought it was my job to poke holes at things and make sure we don't, you know, just kind of believe anything and jump at everything. And I just, I was encouraged by her confidence and her boldness. And so I began to think, well, maybe we could do that. Maybe that is possible. And then I learned. It's something you can actually learn to dream again. You can learn to be positive.
I believed Jim could do anything. And my role, as it turned out, I think, was to remind him of that and almost insist.
If people believe this business is going to work, they have boundless energy. The minute they begin to doubt that it will work for them, they stop. Doubt and confusion are our two #1 enemies. Mm-hmm. And the opposite of that is belief and clarity. It's pretty easy to get someone to believe in the business, because if they just take the time to do a little research, it's pretty obvious. But that doesn't solve the problem. The problem is they believe the business is good, they're just not sure they can do it. We've been in this business long enough and done it in enough different countries and different cultures that we obviously have times when things work better than other times. And we have times when we have to respond to external attacks or situations that come up that cost us some of our momentum or some of our progress. Success is an individual decision. And we've just learned, when you find the right people and you put them in the right environment and you believe in them and sometimes get out of their way, they do really, really well. But the minute we try to take all the credit or solve all the problems or point out people's flaws, we shut things down. We're going to find the things they're doing right and build on those. And then as they gain confidence and as they gain belief, then they shockingly get better. the same people literally transform. It's fascinating how they transform in this environment. One of the biggest mistakes I find many people make is they allow themselves to become a victim. They allow themselves to look for somebody to blame. And I've seen this over and over when someone begins to slow down the business. Immediately you start hearing them talking about who they can blame. This is so unproductive. We just learned years ago, we don't want to spend any energy worrying about who to blame. We want to focus on a solution. And the solution is usually getting back to basics. Getting your dreams out again, dusting them off, setting some new goals, going out and talking to some new people. I don't know about anyone else, but whenever I start showing this plan to people, it's hard to be negative because I come alive when I start explaining how it works. It rises and falls on leadership. And leadership is vision, leadership is action, leadership is example, how easily people can be distracted or discouraged, and it seems like they're giving up so little. For example, the people that brought us into the business, a landscape architect and his wife, they showed us this plan and then they quit. And when you think about it,
Made sense at the time.
they quit because it didn't seem to be working.
Right.
They quit because they sponsored some people and nothing much was happening. They had got some volume and, you know, it wasn't growing, and they decided it was too much work for the reward, and they made what seemed like an intelligent decision and just stopped doing it. And when you think about what they gave up, you think about the potential life rewards, not even just the money rewards, but when I think of how we live and the memories we have and the values we have in our family and the things that this business has done for us, the options it's given us, the position it's put us in, how easily we could have slipped away.
This is not a job where you pay them and they have to show up. At any time, they can be gone. And so one of the reasons, people say, oh, you read a lot of books and you read a lot of, how to deal with people. Are you kidding? Our business is people. And the bottom line is, do they feel better or worse after leaving you? And, you have to think about that. You want to inspire them and lead them and love them.
Probably the most valuable thing we can look back is not the financial rewards, which are huge, the places we've been able to go, but it's the values and the memories and the togetherness and the way our personal life and our business life just merged together that has given us so rich a life experience.
How different it could have been if we had not gotten a babysitter and gone to that first meeting. I think that's probably the most impactful thing. I think how close I came to not having it. At the end of the day, you get a few years down the track and you have the chance to look back, and you can either look back with regret or you can look back. You have two options: I wish I had, or I'm so glad I did. And I think the great thing for us is that we can look back in all aspects of our life as far as what this business has contributed and said, I'm so glad we did.